Hello, everybody. My name is Colton. I am trying to be an author, and I'm here today with a conversation interview with a fantastic individual who knows all about magic systems and how to make them even better. Would you like to give yourself an introduction, Clark?
Sure. Hi, I'm C.R. Rowenson. When you're talking about my books, it's C.R. Rowenson. When you're talking about me as a human, it's just Clark. So I also go by The Magic Engineer on YouTube, and that's because I like to tinker with and break down and analyze how magic systems work, how you can build them, how you can repair them, how to make them better. And that's the main thing I do right now is I work with storytellers to help them craft and repair their magic systems. I also do just general writing coaching for storycraft, like dealing with scheduling problems, project management. Anything related to storytelling, I'm there, and if there's magic, I'm there even more. That's pretty much how it works.
Nice. Well, thank you for the introduction. Well, my first question for you, Clark, is what is it about magic systems and just magic in general that caused you to focus on it so much? Like, what was your seed crystal to love magic?
I have not been asked that before, so I don't have an answer like right there.
Okay.
I actually think it really just comes to my core definition of magic, and if I didn't call it out, that would seem like a real slick transition, but yeah. Whatever. Which the definition I use is it's anything enabling effects or abilities beyond our current capability or understanding. Gotcha. And that's really what it is for me, is just the idea of me being able to do these crazy things and being able to explore and experiment. That's what it is, and that's what it's always been. Even when I was a kid and I had this whole saga I went on, like during recess and stuff, where I pretended that I was like a hybrid with Bulbasaur from Pokemon, so that I could do all sorts of vine control, because it was awesome.
Yeah, of course. No, Bulbasaur is actually the best starter in the original games, so I agree with that.
With me.
Nice.
But I think that's what it is just these new abilities to explore.
Yeah. That's fantastic. I love that. I spent a lot of time on the playground with friends playing Power Rangers, and I would actually get on the shoulders of my taller friend, and we would be the Megazord. So I get that. I've been there. Fantastic. So yeah. Oh man. Do you have a favorite magic system that you have read?
No, because there's so many really, really good ones.
Mm-hmm.
The one that has my attention captured right now, that I keep going to just over and over and over again, I'm listening to the first book again right now, actually, is He Who Fights with Monsters. Okay. Which is a lit RPG series, and gotcha. The guy's banter is fantastic. He could use some work on his story structure. Like he started with serials, so really short installments, and he hasn't quite got the hang of turning the arcs into like solid book arcs. But that's neither here nor there. The magic system in that is amazing. Powder Mage trilogy is fantastic. Really like the Andalite Chronicles and Animorphs when I was a kid. Just if there's magic, I'm interested in being there. I want to go to there. Nice.
Kind of piggybacking off of that, are there any books that you just have put down because either the magic is too bad, or you're just like, I just doesn't work for me, or do you kind of power through just because you just love magic?
Well, for the most part with books, I try to power through because I don't think it's fair to criticize something that I didn't finish. Fair so enough. That's one thing that I push through, but it's never one thing that kills a book for me, right? Mm-hmm. It's going to be a combination of things, because even if the magic isn't great, if you're doing really good characters and really compelling arc and really compelling plot and cool setting, I'll let it slide, even though I like magic systems. Like the one thing I am less likely to forgive is an absence of magic systems, because I just probably won't read it in the first place.
Yeah.
And even though it kills me to say it, not every story needs a magic system.
True.
Like,
Very true.
You heard it from me. I'm just probably not going to read it.
Oh my gosh.
So it's usually a combination of things. There have been some in horror genres. More, I'm finding that it's more around the booming time of like Stephen King and Dean Koontz.
Okay.
There's a certain style of how they did their horror that I don't quite like, where it's just kind of random and crazy and escalating madness, but not escalating madness in a Lovecraft way, escalating madness in terms of look at this crazy thing now, which I'm not as much a fan of. I know plenty of other people do like it though.
Yeah. No, for sure. Do you have a favorite magic system that you've created? This is your time to just be super prideful about it. Like I would love to know about it.
So before we started the interview, I told you like how I initially got into writing fiction and all of that, and how there was just this huge brainchild I had about like extremely scientific superpowers. That's still one of my favorite settings because it ended up being like 34 different powers across I think 4 or 5 different classes of powers, and I still have maps somewhere where it's spread out with different classes in different parts of the world because naturally they were just genetic splitting that was happening anyway. I still really love that. I still really love a lot of the powers in there and all the stuff I can do with it. It's so hard because I really like the viral magic system I talk about in my book, because that was such a fun idea where the virus is what carries the magic. So your magic is strongest when you are most sick.
And you came out with it before COVID, right?
I did.
Okay.
I did. Yeah. I was doing a series of blog posts, web articles at the time, walking through how I build a magic system, and I finished like the last post in something like March of 2020. I'm like, this isn't great timing, but that one was really fun because just coming up with the very specific viruses was a lot of fun. Like one of them is the so you've done it now. You got me talking about one of my magic systems, not just magic systems.
Just do it. Just go for it.
So there's 2 I really like, and they're both bloodborne viruses. One is the Dustbringer, is what they call it.
Okay.
The Dustbringer strain, because your blood will corrode anything that is non-organic.
Interesting.
Slowly, but it will do it. And just so many ideas of what you could do with that.
Oh yeah, like, I'm already like my mind is racing. I'm like, oh geez, that'd be really scary and dangerous.
Yeah, like the short story that I built up when I was building the magic system, because I usually do those in tandem. One of the characters just has a syringe that she uses to eat through a lock, because she injects her blood inside the lock mechanism and then just opens the door.
Oh geez. Well, I mean, and we're talking about blood. We were talking about how like I have this system that I call it the blood plague, and
good name.
Yeah, thank you. Blood in general is, I think it's obviously one of the oldest magics in the world, blood rituals and all that, but I think it is still completely untapped of what you could do with blood. And just the fact that it's, as long as you're healthy, it's essentially a renewable resource from you or people. So I think that's super scary, especially because you could just keep taking it and still be okay, unless you take too much.
And it has that built-in limit. And okay, so I said there were like 2 of my favorite, and I'm already lying to you. But another one of the ones I really like is is that you can use. I love this one. It's so gross. You can teleport through pools of your own blood. So you step through one pool and you pop out another one. There's all kinds of stuff about that.
Does it have to be still like liquid, or can it be coagulated?
Yeah, it has to be
Okay.
liquid, and
Okay.
like doing enough to teleport yourself is really hard. But if you think like
Gotcha.
Portal the game, where you're using it to teleport objects, and things like that, it's so
Does it?
like
Does it? Okay. This is gonna turn into huge tangents because this is really cool. Can it be different people's blood, the same blood type, or does it have to be specifically your blood?
the way I did it is it had to be specifically one person's blood,
Okay.
and
Gotcha.
it's a weird thing where if you have too many pools of blood, it can be kind of random of what it's going to come out of, because they're just all sort of connected.
Yeah.
But I had this really cool scene in my head where it's this prisoner who's trying to escape. So what she did is she puts a smear of her blood on a back wall and then stands in front of the door with a piece of the door that has her blood on it, and people start opening fire at her. It goes through the blood on the door, out the blood on the wall behind them, and they shoot themselves in the back.
Oh my gosh, dude, that's insane. That's really crazy. Jeez.
The other one I really like in that system, I just love the whole system.
It's really cool.
It's how I did mind control.
Okay.
Because this one is extra. This is a little complicated.
Yeah.
But it is what I call these vector strains, where it's not actually a magic power that you yourself experience. The magic comes in when you act as a vector and infect somebody else. So that secondary stage of infection creates magical opportunities between you and the person that you were a vector for. So if you go around and infect them, by the time they hit the stage of incubation, you now have mental influence over them. But it's a really weird balance because you have to keep yourself sick long enough for them to get sick so that you can actually do this.
Oh my gosh, jeez.
I love this system.
There and like
so
I'm not gonna say it, but there are so many ways that a person could infect people.
So I built
so
it
many
out so
ways.
the classes of magic were based on types of transmission.
Okay, so I should expect this, but it goes even deeper. So
because I can't help myself. So there's I don't remember quite how I had it all broken down. I'd have to pull it up. There's the vector effects, which are like the mind control one, and I had some others, but I don't remember what those were. Those are saliva based, and like sneeze based.
Makes sense. Yeah.
There's another group that are host effects, so they affect like you and your person.
Gotcha.
And those are infectious through sweat and I think primarily sweat. Yes, well, like sweat in general, and some just general contact stuff just living on your body, and then you have the environmental ones. I may have those switched around, but then you have the ones that are bloodborne.
Gotcha.
And I went into a ton of research about how viruses work. So, like the different types of magic all have different incubation periods. I went a little nuts.
That's okay. I am for sake of the video, we can't go into all of it right now, but I know that we could go into all that. I would love to hear about all that. Yeah, that sounds so cool and disgusting. I have a big thing I love body horror, so like a lot of my stuff ends up kind of gross. Yeah. My whole thing with blood is it's all about grafting is a big part of it now. That's something where you can, and not just like skin, but you can, with enough blood and stuff, you can graft body parts and stuff. So a lot of the higher nobility put on extra limbs and whatnot. Anyway, there's that's a newer section, but anyway.
Yeah. And I have like a separate system that I'm gonna finish building one day, where it's all I just call it the organ magic system.
Okay.
Where it's built around doing grafts and transplants of organs from magical creatures.
That's really cool. I'm already like, my mind goes to a like a werewolf, like how you would turn someone into like a werewolf, for example.
Yeah, and I just had pictures of like somebody has like this really weird growth, because what it is it's a fire bladder from a dragon and stuff like that. And I'm just anyway.
That's really cool. That's actually man. Yeah, we don't have time to talk about all those things, but okay. So my next question, and I kind of told you this in the email, but how do you think magic systems can enhance a story?
So, a little bit of a tangent, and then I'll come back. In general, I feel that magic systems have been an underutilized tool in storytelling. We have character, we have plot, we have setting, we have theme, we have all of those things. We also have our magic, and our magic is every bit as potent a tool for the story we want to tell as all of those other pieces. Yeah. I'm not saying your magic is a character. It can be, doesn't have to be, but you can use it in all the same ways that you would use parts of your setting or parts of your theme. You can use it to enhance character emotional arcs. You can use it as a foil to what your characters want. You can use it as a direct metaphor for something that they're struggling with or something they're trying to be. It can be an obstacle. It can be a solution. It can be anything. It can just be a cool backdrop while you're focusing on this thing over here.
Yeah.
It can be anything you need it to be. It is a incredibly powerful tool for storytelling purposes.
Yeah. Well, I something I've thought about a lot is allomancy in Mistborn. I think a lot of people go to Mistborn for the magic, but they stay for the story. Because it becomes, by the time the third book comes around in the first trilogy, it's not as important as it was in the first and even most of the second one, because it becomes, you know, lots of crazy stuff in the third book. But yeah, so that's an analogy or something that I thought about a lot is, I came for the magic system, I stayed for the story. So.
Yeah. Just like how it wasn't just a magic system that would turn me off a book. It would have to be multiple things.
Yeah.
You're not going to keep me with just a magic system either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
Because, I mean, in the end, it is all about stories, sharing a story. And I love that because, it's... Well, I think a lot of people forget to realize that horror movies have magic. The monsters, the ghosts, really... Anything's a magic system. I was watching this video and the guy was like, my laptop is magic. I don't understand how it works, but it works. And it's a soft magic system, my laptop. So I don't understand how my microphone works, but it's working. I can hear you can hear me. So
yeah. And that's that's why tech, advanced tech, lost tech especially is really good to paint as magic, like Stargate. Real good. So tech, alien biology, racial abilities, monsters, magical creatures, like even to extent if you want to do like weird environments, like really weird setting stuff, that's a different kind of magic system. I use magic system just as a general term for pretty much any of the fantastic elements that you want to add into your story, because as a storyteller, or as storytellers, I should say, we can approach building them and using them the same. They'll all feel different and they'll get used a little bit different, but our approach can be the same across all of those things.
True. I know. I definitely agree. So the coin flip to that question is, how do you think a magic system can hinder a story?
Spending too much time on it, on your magic system, can really hinder a story. If there's too many details that aren't important, that can really damage things. So everything that we just nerded out about with the viral magic, most of that, I have a short story planned and outlined. I haven't written it because I'm focusing on all of the nonfiction. But most of those details aren't going to come across. We're going to learn a little bit about how they work, and we're going to learn a little bit about the specifics of how the viruses that the character is infected with work, because it's relevant to the story. If I dove into all of this information, that would start hurting the story, because I'm spending more and more screen time on stuff that isn't relevant. That's one way. Another way that everybody is very familiar with is plot holes and contradictions. Those aren't automatically bad. It's just if those are there unchecked, unaddressed, they can cause issues. Even if you have workarounds, if it looks like a plot hole to your readers, then you're missing a piece of the story that closes that hole for them. That's another very common way. And then the other way that most people know about is just using magic as the solution for everything.
Yeah. Deus Ex Machina is, I think that's why a lot of people aren't the biggest fans of fantasy in general, is because they think magic just solves the problem.
Yeah. And that's part of the issue I have with those style of horror stuff that I talked about a little bit ago. An example, if you want to see what I'm talking about in just a couple of hours instead of reading a book, you can watch In the Tall Grass on Netflix.
I have heard about it, and from what I've heard, I don't think I'd enjoy it.
I mean, it's good and it's creepy as all get out. But it is one of those things where there's a point where like it stopped making sense. It's like, and that's a weird thing to say because it's inherently nonsensical for the way it's supposed to be mysterious and incomprehensible. But the way it started building, I was like, there is no way that this hangs together at all. So now I'm out. Suspension of disbelief is broken, and this is just crazy wackadoodle stuff to make it crazy wackadoodle. So
and I do think there is a place for stories like that, because sometimes it can really work, especially if it's to do with like a mental state or how a character perceives the world. But other times, maybe plan it out a little bit more before you just write the whole thing. So.
And some people do really like that. It's just not for me.
Yeah, same. I definitely lean towards, I really enjoy harder magic systems, harder rational magic systems. And it seems like you do as well.
That's where I tend to go. I do like, I'm starting to appreciate all over the spectrum a little more, the more as I get into like how to wield them and how to use them. But that is generally what will hook my interest the fastest in terms of like, if you're trying to hook me on the magic itself, having something that's more rational is what's going to grab me. I'm pretty much the same way too. My next question for you, Clark, is, how did you become a speaker about writing in magic systems? To me, it kind of seems like a dream job. Just being able to talk for an hour or so about magic. It kind of is a dream job, and it's the dream job I'm still chasing. As for how I got there, that's a whole long history of me just enjoying public speaking, spending some time doing Toastmasters, which, if any of you are just speaking to the general audience, if you're uncomfortable, want to get better, finding a good Toastmasters group is fantastic. I don't know if there's a better way to start stepping that up.
Gotcha.
And so from there, it was just a lot of cold contacting people and a lot of applying to conferences. And I spent years applying to conferences and getting nothing. And then I spent a couple years applying to conferences and them inviting me as a panelist and putting me on everything except talking about magic systems. And the dam kind of started to break just in 2021, honestly. In 2020, I started really stepping up. I had been trying to follow all of the advice of, build a platform online and do this social media stuff. And I am awful at social media. I'm awful at digital interactions because I feel fake online. And not just I feel like I'm being fake. No, you read my stuff and it feels like it is somebody being fake, being like, I am a human over here. See things. So I started trying to lean into this kind of stuff of me talking with somebody. Started cold contacting podcasts, and that has slowly started to build on itself. And some of the major tipping points were I got invited to present at Pikes Peak in Colorado, Pikes Peak Writers Conference in Colorado for 2020, which is in April. So, quarantine went down like right at the beginning of the month. but they ended up inviting me back for 2021. That went really well. Like, people started connecting me with other people through some crazy random stuff that still sort of blows my mind. I ended up presenting at 20 Books to 50K in Vegas.
Wow.
In 2021, end of 2021, which that was a weird thing. I wasn't on the schedule at all. I was just going around talking with people, and people kept asking, like, are you giving a presentation? I said, no, but it's invite only. So if you know the organizers, talk to them.
Yeah.
And I had a couple of women who, fantastic, but they just said, oh yeah, we're real tight with the organizers. And the next day they came and found me. Do you want to present Thursday? Sure.
Nice.
So that's how it's been building, and I'm just continuing to apply and continuing to just have these kinds of conversations where I can be real and where I can thrive with this sort of as close to face as we can get.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. It's I think with how the internet is, if you use it as a tool to connect with people, it's so cool. I like I said before, I was originally doing Dungeons and Dragons content, and I just messaged people, like I did with you, and I met so many friends and so many people that are just so kind and nice and willing to talk, because people just like to talk about what they like, and it's super cool that we live in a world where we could be all the way across the world talking to each other right now, and it's just fun and it's just awesome. So I just that's really cool that you're putting in the work, and that I think having something so concrete and understandable as like the Magic System Blueprint does help, though. Being a published author and having this thing like hey, and like I think I watched that presentation, and you were able to just go through all the steps and everything, and I think that helps a lot.
It does.
So
it really, really does. Having that thing to point to, and the Magic System Blueprint was kind of the perfect culmination, because that tool came from about the past 10 years of me analyzing and doing this more intense teaching, learning, analysis practice of magic systems. So yeah, it has been really great. It has been a really amazing entry point for me to really introduce the topic, so that people can because my wife is really good at taking complex topics and communicating their importance. And I'm really good at taking complex topics and teaching them and teaching how to use them. So until I had the blueprint, I really struggled with getting people to understand the importance of this stuff that I will rant about for hours. And then once I had that, I was able to say, look at this, and look at how we can use it, how it can help you. Yeah. That helped me overcome that barrier, and I could jump straight into like, great, you see the value now, right? Let me teach you, because I can do that.
That's fantastic. And I mean, having a recording like where I just looked up your name on YouTube, not the Magic Engineer, nothing, and that presentation was the first thing that showed up, and that's really cool that somebody could do that and find you like, oh, he's presented and he does a good job at it. So. Being able to get your foot in the door like that, and that's fantastic that you've worked for 10 years either just on that and everything, and that it's kind of culminated into you doing this awesome thing. So congratulations.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And like, it's just like that whole fabled job experience when you're right out of college, right? You need it to get a job, but you can't get it without a job. And then eventually somebody gives you a chance, and then you can start being like, see, I've done this. I can do this. You can trust me. And then more and more people will take the chance on you, and you're able to start building that. And it's been good so far. I'm hoping to continue building it with the coaching, the presenting, and all of that. Because I would love to switch to this kind of stuff full time. Not quite there yet, but working on it.
Hey, that's okay. I mean, you definitely know what you're talking about. I think that's number one. is know what you're talking about and have a platform, no matter how big your platform is. Just having a way that people can look you up and find you is I think that's the biggest step. So
and the biggest learning, I know you didn't ask this, but like
go for
the
it.
biggest lesson for me in all of this was being honest with myself about my strengths and then embracing those strengths.
Nice.
Because like as soon as I switched to I suck online, I need to do in person. As soon as I switched to that, things started building. Because I would be on a podcast and I would have a ton of fun with the host, and they would say, you should contact this person over here. I'm going to give you an introduction because this was a blast. Like that came from me when I stopped trying to be this thing I thought I was supposed to be and really started leaning into what I'm actually good at.
Yeah. I mean, no, Clark, how did you use your strengths to create? No, just kidding. Oh, that's awesome. I mean that answers a lot of my questions. Honestly, is you just talking about that. One of I have like two more questions, and this next one is is there an idea, a seed crystal about a magic system that you have not been able to make work?
As in me personally, or me working with people to try and help them?
You personally.
There are seed crystals and concepts that I lose interest in.
Okay.
Or they aren't quite... I want to say no, because by the time it's an actual seed crystal, it's already working.
Gotcha.
There are a lot of ideas that I didn't successfully turn into seed crystals. So that can be tricky. I guess one thing I'm going to put out there, which there are people who can do it right, but I don't mess with it at all. And that is time travel.
Gotcha.
I don't use any seed crystals that are based off of that.
I think that's just kind of a common knowledge now, is unless you can really work with it, or like in Avengers Endgame, if you can just kind of like don't think about it, we're just gonna get this done, because it's a $1 billion movie. I think that's how you can make it work, is if you're Anthony and Joe Russo. So
well, I will say that despite the other things that I didn't like about it, that is something that In the Tall Grass did a very interesting job of.
Oh, okay.
Of how it warped and wove time and looped it back in on itself.
Oh, cool.
And that started to scale up to a point that like kind of broke it for me. But they did a lot of stuff that was really cool. Well, but yeah, I don't mess with that because I don't want to deal with that. It's hard to get right, and I don't want to mess with that.
That's really cool that you're able to still see the value, even though you're not the biggest fan of it. It kind of went off the rails. It's cool that you're still able to see the value of this thing. I think that's really awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah, I do think there is value in anything done well.
Yeah.
Like not everybody's gonna like it, but anything done well has its own value, and anything can be done well in the hands of the right person.
True.
So like that's why anytime I'm talking about stuff, I will stop myself and contradict myself over and over, just saying like, okay, here's a rule. Okay, it's not actually a rule because rules are fabrications that don't actually exist.
Just like time.
Because you can make anything work, but here is the trend that I have found if you want to keep it simple.
I think you should work on a time travel, like just one simple idea, and just figure out what you can do with that. Like not today, we don't have time for that today, but I just think that's like a challenge for you, because I think you have this wealth of knowledge that I really think that you could figure it out.
Oh, that would take a lot. I do like time compression stuff. There is some really cool things you can do with that.
Yeah, and it's
actual time travel.
Yes,
circuitous.
Well, time compression is easier because you're not time traveling. You're either slowing it down, speeding it up, or stopping it. So it's like, it's easier to deal with. So Yeah. Well, my last question is, you the seed crystal. It's just like your base of the Magic System blueprint. It's on the cover. It's something that you've talked about a lot in your videos and your presentations. But how did you create that? Well, you didn't create seed crystals, but how did you create the concept and apply it to your Magic System blueprint?
Well, I have a background in chemical engineering and chemistry, and that's really where it came from. Because, and I will talk about this all the time. One thing that I find super cool about crystalline structures, and this includes metals, this includes gemstones. Most solid matter with a rigid lattice has a crystal structure, whether we call it a crystal or not. But crystal structures can't form out of nothing. If the particles are just floating around, like if we had a perfect like 0G bubble, and it was pure metal or pure diamond or pure carbon or whatever, it can't crystallize without something to latch onto and start growing off of.
Okay.
It needs something to connect to, and then it can start building and connecting and grow off of that. And that's what seed crystals are. And so I had that in my head for a long time, and really where it started coming in is I realized that what I use as inspiration is very different from what other people use as inspiration. But there's always that moment where you're talking through it and you're talking about ideas, and then somebody will say a line, will say a sentence, and people's eyes will light up and ideas will start spilling.
Yeah.
And that's because you have found the seed crystal, and now the crystal is growing.
Yep.
So that's how I kind of came up with that.
Nice. No, that's fantastic. Because when you explain it, it just makes so much sense, and it's one of those things where you're like, why didn't I think of that? It's like, it's just right there. So I just think it's an extremely powerful tool, not only for Magic Systems but stories, and just concepts. And I'm sure you could turn it into this science theory hypothesis, and it could just be this crazy thing. But I love that you've been able to turn it into Magic Systems. So I think
thank you. Yeah, I always appreciate hearing that.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. But no, I just want to say thank you for coming on here and talking to me about all this stuff. It's really been a blast, just gushing over nerd stuff, and your Magic Systems are extremely clever, and I think there's so much you could do with them.
Thank you. Well, and thank you for reaching out to me. So like anybody watching, Colton just sent me an email and said, hey, I do YouTube stuff. You do YouTube stuff. Would you want to talk and do an interview? Yeah. And I like doing this, and I get to nerd out and eventually, hopefully one day get paid for it. So hell yeah.
Yeah. No, definitely, guys. All of his links, everything will be in the description. It took him a few days. No, just playing.
Yeah, I am a little slow on that.
That's okay. No, the fact that we're talking right now is testament that it actually didn't take that long compared to some people. So again, thank you.
I try and stay on top of it, but it's iffy, man.
Yeah. Well, guys.
But yeah, thank you for reaching out and inviting me on.
Check out Clark's stuff. His book, The Magic System Blueprint, his YouTube channel, all the presentations he's done. He really smart guy, talented, has lots of knowledge. So yeah, check him out. Yeah, and we'll see you guys next time.